I'm the granddaughter of the eldest child. My mother was named Fumiko. She was the eldest. She's a Nesan, and she outlived all her siblings. Yeah.
So I am the grandson and my mother is the youngest daughter of Ji-chan, and so I'm the second son.
He was born in Fukuoka-ken, Kyushu.
So the place is called Kamisaigo-mura, Munakata-gun, Fukuoka-ken, Kyushu, Japan.
Well, he apparently had 3 brothers, and I don't know where he came in that list, and 2 sisters, but they were farmers. And so while he was growing up, I guess he worked on a farm. And then after he finished school, he started fishing on a civilian fishing boat. And so this is the exciting part. While they were out fishing, something happened to the boat, and they were shipwrecked. And apparently everybody died except he was rescued by a American, I think they call it a bark. And so 5 years he sailed around the world with this on this ship. He learned how to speak and read English, and he was the cook. So he learned how to cook American dishes besides, knowing Japanese dishes. So he was a good cook. One of the stories is that they somehow found a monkey, a little monkey, and it was presented to him as a pet.
So according to what I have here, it says that he arrived in San Francisco on December 26th, 1907, as a crew member of that Metropolis. I understand when he was in the East Bay, he was doing, peddling.
So I know he got married to
Kimino. Yuki.
So his last name was Yahiro, but changed to Yuki.
So was she a picture bride or?
Mm.
Sharecropping.
Yeah.
Back then.
Because at that time, aliens could not, because he was Japanese and they weren't eligible for citizenship, he wasn't able to buy property, so he mostly sharecropped. He was able to rent land to farm on under his children's name. So basically the children were his bosses.
So oldest is Auntie Mary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in Castro Valley, Auntie Helen Nakano is her married name. Her third child
That was George or
was,
Hachi.
George. And then second son was born October 25th, 1920, Frank.
Hiroshi. And then your mom.
Yeah, July 7th, 1922. So my mother says that, strawberries you had to change every 3 years or so, so they moved from ranch to ranch every 3 years or so, it seems.
I forgot about Uncle Jim.
Oh, Uncle Jim, yeah. Where was Uncle Jim in there? So I understand he was taken first to the post office and then to the county jail. So the warrant was issued on the 27th. He was arrested on the 28th. So apparently, while she's looking, apparently there was a confidential informant who had information that they furnished to the FBI. And that was one of the, whatever was in that information was the reason he was arrested. It talks about his involvement with the Kendo group and one other.
History of Kendo in North America was the information that the informant ran across. And it said that he was vice president of the Campbell branch of the Hokubei. Yeah.
So that was a newspaper.
No.
They probably were just looking through like a yearbook and found his name listed. And I mean, that was the only reason that they had to arrest him. So this is the actual form that the FBI filled out. And it tells you right here about what happened when they came to the door.
Bachan told the kids to leave the house, and then she was told by the FBI to pack a bag with clothing and personal items.
For Jijo.
Yeah, and then she was putting the razor in the bag, and they snatched it away from her. And then they were handcuffed. He was handcuffed and taken away. And she remembers seeing Bachan throwing a coat over his hands because she didn't want the kids to see him in handcuffs. Her grandmother was able to visit him in the county jail for a short time. And then after that, we didn't see him.
Well, Mom tells a story where he wanted some clothes, underwear and stuff. So, but he also wanted some cash. So what they did was they folded it really tight and sewed it into the waistband of the shorts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
Your-
that. I didn't. Yeah,
Your
she
mom
didn't.
doesn't say anything about that. Because they were afraid if somebody inspected, the package and saw cash, they would take it, and then he would be out. After he was arrested, he went from Santa Clara County.
He went to Sharp Park.
There was a hearing, and these are the points that were the reason that he was still in detention.
He deserted his vessel and entering the U.S., so is therefore here illegally.
But I found records of him going through customs. I guess they didn't have time to investigate.
Something like
And
that.
it said also that he didn't have a visa to come here.
Okay, so they didn't go. So your family didn't go to the hearing.
Well, if you look at the dates, his hearing date was like 4 days before we got shipped to Pomona, the temporary relocation center. And then also, Japanese people were not able to travel more than 5 miles away from their home. The hearing was in San Francisco, so there was no way that you could do it. So, my mom was married and had a family. She had 4 children at that point, but we lived next door to them. So my grandmother, I think probably your mom, and the youngest son were still at home. So we got shipped to Pomona, the temporary assembly center. And then we went to Heart Mountain, Wyoming.
So it was from Heart Mountain, I think that Mom and others were writing to the government to try to find out where our grandfather was. Because it was 2.5 years they didn't see him. So there, I have a letter where my mother writes, and one of the things that she says is that, during all of these years, he's been contributing to the Red Cross, Community Chest, Salvation Army, etc. I know that he has not been disloyal in any way to our country. He has never left the country once he arrived in 1908. He wants to be a good, loyal American citizen. So she's asking because the family needed him. That was one of the letters she wrote to the U.S. Attorney General's office. And later on, they were finally reunited in Crystal City, Texas, Department of Justice camp.
I think it was in 44. But he was moved around a lot.
Yeah, he was.
From Angel Island, he went to Lordsburg. And then those were the Army detention centers. And then finally he was interned at Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was an INS or immigration service camp. So they were there at Crystal City until I think March of '46, because the war was over August of '45, right? It took them that long to process.
Okay, so once everyone was released, did you all go back home or?
Mm-hmm.
So my mom came back here to San Jose. She recalls the church here being kind of a hostel for
Mm-hmm.
people to stay
Yeah.
right after the
The
war.
ladies and kids stayed in the annex.
Mhm.
It was the old annex. And then the men and the boys stayed in the condo. Yeah.
So my mom tried to do hairdressing, cutting hair. Later became a domestic worker, and she got married, and then we soon after my brother was born, we moved to Mountain View.
But my family moved, I don't remember, this must have been before they were released, because we were in Santa Clara for a short time, and then we moved to Cupertino on a ranch where my dad worked in the orchards, and there were 2 houses, and we lived in one, and Bacha and Jichan lived in the other house. And then Jichan bought a house probably around 1950 in J-Town. But I remember my mom and Bachan going out and picking strawberries. Whoever needed help, they would go and work. I don't know what Jichan did. I don't remember him.
I think his health was probably
Yeah.
failing. Also, he was early on was actually getting ill. He had a bad case of rheumatism, and even though he was working hard, it was physically it was difficult for him.
My mom said that because he was farming before the war, and he had all the crops are ready to be harvested, they reimbursed him for all that.
Wait, who?
The produce. The government reimbursed him, and that's how he was able to buy the house on Mission Street in J-Town.
But I remember, as a kid, we'd always get together at our grandparents' home. They lived here in San Jose on Mission Street, not far around the corner here. And my grandparents would have this great Thanksgiving dinner, and all the grandkids running around.
And there were a lot of us.
There were a
yeah.
lot of them. And I remember my grandfather taking me down here to Jackson Street and getting a snow cone.
Oh, I never got to do
Yeah.
that.
And he made me bow at the temple every time we passed by.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he had rock candy. He'd make it. It was on a string, little chunks of rock candy. And so we'd go
That
over
was
there.
a treat. Huh?
And he'd cut off a piece for each of us.
When did he die?
1958.
Yeah.
I was a senior in high school. That's why I remember.
Yeah, he's buried here in San Jose at the Japanese cemetery.
Yeah, he had a massive heart
He had a
attack.
heart attack.
He died on May 18th, 1958. 73 years old.
So this is a, I think Joyce has the same
Yeah.
one, but that's this is our grandfather and grandmother here, and then kids.
7.